And man, you guys can be seated. Well, man, I'm so excited about everything that we have coming up this semester. If I haven't met you, I'm Travis. I'm the college pastor here. And I'm also down front at the end. I'd love to shake your hand, introduce myself if I haven't met you. But we're kicking off with the series called The Vow, How Do I Get Romance Right? And so that's something that I think that we all want to get right. Most of us, I would say in here, want to have a significant other at some point, even though it might not be on your radar right this second. I think it will be at some point for most in the room. But I think there's a lot of people in the room that we could share our own cringeworthy story when it comes to romance. Anybody have one of those at all? Okay, I'm not alone. That's good. But I think that many of us have them where we are sharing like what happened, and we kind of wish that we could say, "Nah, I'm just joking." But we can't say that. We can't say that. And so one of them, I have a couple I could choose from, but one of them was when I was in middle school. I went to the movies with some friends, and I knew that there was going to be there's 5 to 7 of these pretty girls that were going to meet me and a couple other guys at the movies. And I had introduced myself a little bit, and I knew a little bit about who they were, but hadn't really talked with them. Definitely didn't have any kind of friendship with them, really. But we were at the movies, and as I was walking up, I was like, you know what? I really want a girlfriend. And I didn't have that self-talk that you need to talk through where you go, how are you going to go about this? It was just on the fly. I was like, I'm going to figure this out. Because apparently I really, really wanted a girlfriend. And so I walk up to one of them as we're going into the movie. We hadn't even sat down. We hadn't gotten popcorn. None of this had happened yet. And so as I'm walking in, I'm like, you know what? She's really pretty. That's I know that's shallow, but that's where I was at. And I was like, she's really pretty. I'm just gonna go for it. And I walk over to her, and I was like, yeah, jumped in. When you jump in a conversation, I was like, yeah, literally everything you're saying, I agree. Would you want to be my girlfriend or something like that? And she said, no. And I was like, yeah, all right, cool. Let's get some popcorn. I wish that's where the story stopped. That's not why this story is cringeworthy. So we get into the movie theater, and there was other girl there that I also thought was pretty. And so we sit down, and we're about 10 minutes into the movie or something like that. And I was like, you know what? I want a girlfriend. And no one had talked to me about how you don't just there's a way to go about it. And so I sat down, and I was like, this movie's, I bet it's going to be great. Would you want to be my girlfriend? And she goes, no. And so I spent the rest of the movie hating myself, on the inside. I can't even remember what movie we watched that night because I was just like, you're such an idiot. But I wish that's where the story stopped. So we walk out. And the girl had asked if she wanted to be my girlfriend in the movie. She actually had a twin. And in my mind, I was like, her twin's literally just as pretty as she is. And so we walk out, and I was like, that was a good movie. And I was trying to be sly, they didn't already know I'm the creeper. Can I have your number? Can I have it? Can I have it? It's weird moment. And so why would you do this? And I was like, hey, good movie, right? Maybe we could be boyfriend, girlfriend, something like that. Yeah, I'm going home. So 3 strikes, I struck out big time. And the reason why I share that is just so y'all could laugh at my own detriment. But I knew what I wanted, but I had no idea how to get there. I just thought, I want a girlfriend, it's gonna happen. And some of y'all are like, wait, that's not how it works. Welcome. We are glad that you are here. But I knew what I wanted, but I had no idea how to get there. And a lot of people, that's kind of how they would describe their romantic life. They know what they want. So by raise of hands, who wants to have a really good marriage and a family one day? Most hands go up. Now, not everybody wants that, but you have people all around you that do. But most people, statistically, they want that. But we don't know exactly how to get there. And honestly, the culture message that we're getting from the people around this is through all kinds of media that we could name. But the message that we're getting from culture really isn't that helpful, and it can be just bad advice. So my wife really likes Taylor Swift. Any Taylor Swift fans? Okay, I like Taylor Swift. I'm gonna be honest. But in blank space. Taylor Swift says, "Nice to meet you. Where you been? I could show you incredible things. Magic, madness, heaven, sin. Saw you there, and I thought, oh my gosh, look at that face. You look like my next mistake. Love's a game. Yeah." Here's the problem with that. That's actually really, like, if you think about what you're like singing, it's a catchy song. But you're like, you look like my next mistake, and that's terrible. And so it assumes that as we go about our dating lives and as we go about our romance lives, trying to connect with somebody, it's like one bad decision after another bad decision after another bad decision after another mistake after another mistake after another mistake, and then all of a sudden it's like, and Mr. Right. And we find ourselves going into relationships, man, with all kinds of baggage and all kinds of pain and all kinds of stuff. And a lot of people are just going to go, oh, that's just how it works. And I'm like, what if that's not how it has to be? Is that really how we have to do it? I don't think that it's true. I think that God's going to have a better way, and God's going to offer. I want to present before all of us tonight that God has a better way, and he has something to offer that our culture doesn't, especially whenever it comes to dating and marriage and things like that. And so that's why we're doing this series. This series is designed to show us how to get to the better way of doing things. Specifically, how can we date well with the goal of getting married well and having a great family and setting ourselves up for success in that area of our lives, which touches every other area, by the way. And so that's where we're going tonight. We're going to be in Song of Songs. It's Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and then Song of Songs is kind of somewhere in the middle of the Bible. And it's going to be one verse that we're going to be in tonight is Song of Songs, chapter 6, verse 3. But we're going to be looking at how do we get there. And the reason why it's called the vow is because we're over the next several weeks, over the next 3 weeks specifically, we're going to be going over the classic wedding vow, a version of the classic wedding vow, and we're going to show how it's tied deeply to scriptural truth and how it applies to our dating lives now. And so somebody might ask, why are we going to go over a wedding vow whenever we're not married? And I would say that's exactly why. Is because most people in this room aren't married yet. And even if you are married, this is going to be beneficial for us as well. But we're going to be in the wedding vow, and the reason why is because you only know how to prepare if you know the end goal, right? You only know how to prepare if you know the goal that you're going after. And we're going to have a clear goal that we're going after that we can be able to say this standing in front of God and other people one day, and we'll be able to say this vow, and we'll have prepared ourselves to stick to it and to mean it. Because, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful statement that we see people make a version of all the time. So how do we prepare now for a great marriage in the future and for dating well? As we prepare for marriage. And so the classic wedding vow, it says this. It says, I blank take you blank. It's not what you'll say one day when you get married. It makes it very, very just not good, but you'll be more personalized. But I blank take you blank to be my wedded husband or to be my wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish till death do us part, according to God's holy ordinance, and thereto I pledge myself to you. And so we're going to be focusing in on the part of that vow where you say, I take you to be my wedded husband, my wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, to love and to cherish till death do us part. That's what we're really zooming in on. And we're going to be in one verse tonight that a lot of these thoughts come from, and it's Song of Songs, chapter 6, verse 3. Song of Songs is a book that is written, and it's written in poetic form, but it's a celebration of marriage and sex in the context of marriage. Yes, that book exists in the Bible. So Song of Songs, chapter 6, and this is a phrase that's repeated multiple times. In 2:16, it's repeated, and then here it's repeated, and then a version of it is also repeated in chapter 7, verse 10 of Song of Songs, but it simply says this: I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. And there are so many takeaways that we're going to go over from that one verse and how it's tied and how we get our classic wedding vow from thoughts and from God like this, that he wrote down for us. He wrote down his thoughts on marriage, and this is one statement that is, man, it's a lot to unpack. And so what are you saying, and what are we saying whenever we are saying, like, you are my beloved? What you're saying is, I consistently choose to love this person, and I am consistently chosen to be loved by this person. Whenever you say your vow, when you say, I take you, and I am yours, and you are mine, you are saying, I choose to love you the rest of my life, and you are choosing consistently to love me the rest of your life. And this is this unbroken union that marriage is supposed to be, this amazing thing. And I remember whenever we got married, I said, I am yours to my wife, and she says, I am yours to me. And that was going on 10 years ago in May, and it's just as true now as it was then. And if God gives us 70 years, it's going to be just as true then. And that's what we're all after, that kind of love. And whenever I preach a wedding, I usually hold the ring up, and I say, let the circle of this ring remind you of the unbroken covenant of love that you are supposed to have in your marriage, that you're committed to each other, and it's this unbroken union that you are to have for each other. And let that, when you put that ring on, let it be a reminder of that as you go throughout your days together. And man, so this is the goal. This is what we want. So how does this apply to dating? Because this is a series on marriage, but it's really a series on dating because that's where you are at. And so how does this apply to dating? Well, I would say this: whenever you're talking about I consistently choose to love, or this word beloved, I would say you've got to answer the question, is this love? Does he love me? Do I love her? And really, in our culture, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more. Okay. I can't help myself. I do have that written down in my notes to say, just so y'all know. I recently had a conversation, though, with the student last semester, and as we were talking, she said that she got really connected with a guy, and it was over social media, and that she hadn't met this guy in person, but he started out by talking about how beautiful she was, kind of slid in the DMs a little bit, and so talking about how beautiful she was, and she said she was really reluctant at first, but he continued to talk, and she started to talk back, and then weeks went by, and he was always talking about how beautiful, oh, I love your laugh, and all these things about her, so she started to buy and believe what this guy was saying. And then she said, and so one day he actually said, you know what, I know we haven't met, but I love you. And she goes, I didn't know what to do with that, but I thought, what if he does? And so she said that I decided that he said, like, can maybe we hang out? I'll come and I'll visit you over the weekend. And so he came and he visited her, and she said that she ended up doing some things she wished she wouldn't have done. And then whenever they were, she said, like, after all the stuff was done, he left that weekend. And then the quote that I remembered was, she said, and it's like he just ghosted me. And it's like, the quote was that from her mouth was, it's like he got what he wanted and then he was out. And there was a lot of pain in that conversation. My question for us is, how do we make sure that we don't get strung along like that? How do we make sure that we don't get sucked into something like that? And how do we keep that from happening? How do we encourage others to not have that happen to them? And I imagine like my little girls, and as they grow up, I have a 6-year-old, and then I have I guess she's 19 months old now, but she's a 19-month-old looking at my wife, just making sure I'm right. But it's crazy because like my 6-year-old is almost 30, so she's going to be dating pretty soon. But I think about the times that she's going to come home and she's going to say, oh, so she's going to introduce me to some guy. And by the way, this is just for free. Whenever I met my wife, I had my hat cocked to the side. Hi, sir. Nice to, yeah. Anyway, luckily, he had grace towards me. So there's grace if you've made those kinds of mistakes, because I'm definitely not speaking from an expert. I'm speaking from a guy who's kind of made all the mistakes that you can make in dating, and God still was gracious, and he was faithful when I was faithless. And so just know that there is grace in all of this series. But how do you keep from this happening, or if it's already happened for you, how do you keep from it happening again and again? I think about my girls, and so I try to keep this in mind. So ever so often, we'll watch Frozen, and we'll watch Frozen, and I'll be like, you know how they're like finishing their other sandwiches and stuff like that? That guy sucks, baby. And no, I don't say that. Yeah, I do. And I'm like, that guy is awful. He's actually going to turn, and he's actually not what he looks like he is he? And she's like, no. And then we'll watch Tangled, and we'll watch Flynn Rider, and I'll be like, so he starts off kind of, this is just where I'm at, guys. If y'all are like, hey, you're talking kids shows, I know. But it's like Flynn Rider, and anybody watched Tangled before? Okay, there's a few in the audience, good. Otherwise, it's like, I'm going to just change the illustration. But we'll watch him, and I'm like, he actually ends up becoming a good guy. And then I go, baby, how do you know that I love you? And she just looks at me, because she don't know how to answer that question. She's like, I don't know, you give me chocolate? But I'll go, no. Here's the thing, so you know that daddy, he tries to provide for you, right? That daddy, when you're sick, I'm going to take care of you, aren't I? Do you think daddy thinks about you all throughout the day as I go throughout my days? And she said, yes. You think daddy would sacrifice anything for you? Yes. And I'll go, baby, one day you want to marry a guy like that. You want to marry a guy that he's going to love you like that. Now, there's a process to this. Don't meet a girl, fellas. It's like, it sounds really good. I'm just going to walk up to you and be like, I would lay my life down for you. It's weird. It's not going to work out. It's weird. But that's the end goal. That's the process ends to that end goal. But I'll say, baby, that's what you want. That's what you're after, and that's what we are after. And so how do we make sure that we get there? Well, we got to have something to define what love is. We got to have a filter. So because have y'all, when you first enter into the infatuation phase, basically it's just like everything they do is dreamy. They're amazing. You're sure that their farts don't stink and all this other stuff. Like it's just amazing. Yes, I said that. And it's just an amazing phase in dating where the sparks are flying. Man, it's fun. But it's like driving in the fog. If you've driven in thick fog, there's some things that are out there. You just can't see anything except for what's in front of you. And whenever you first start dating someone, it's like that. So there could be some really big problems down the road, but you just don't see it because all you're looking at is what's in front of you, unless you have some filters to go by. And so this is going to give us some filters to make sure that we actually have the things that we need to know as we evaluate whether we should continue on with somebody, especially whenever we first meet them. And preferably it'd be someone that you just knew for a very long time, but that's usually not how it works out. And so what qualities of sacrificial love have we seen in this person? And I would say this too. I know there's crazy stories out there, and I know that somebody has a grandma that met a grandpa, and they knew each other for 10 days, and they got married 10 hours later, and they've been married for 100 years. And so I know those stories are out there, but I'm just saying most likely it's going to take more than 3 weeks for you to evaluate whether it's real love or not. Can we just be honest, right? And so is this real love? And so asking these questions is going to help put filters. One filter is this statement that we are looking at in the vow and also in God's word, more importantly, is I am my beloved is mine. It's a statement of commitment. It's a statement that you're saying, you're mine and I'm yours, and it's till death do us part. And that's the vow that you're making. That's the commitment that you're making one day whenever you get married to somebody. You're committing your life to that person and for the good of that person. That's what you're saying. And so how do you prepare for that kind of commitment, and how do you look for that? So let's look at a self-evaluation thing real quick. First of all, you need to be able to answer this question: what is my yes worth? So what is your yes worth? Matthew chapter 5, verse 37 is simply going to say this. It's going to say, let your yes be yes. Meaning whenever you say you're going to do something, there should not be any other things that are needed. You shouldn't have to put that on something or make a pinky promise, because your yes is worth something. So is your yes worth something? And I know a lot of people that, because of FOMO and stuff like that, and like college students can be kind of flaky sometimes, right? Like croissants just flaking everywhere. And so because we're scared of missing out on something else, we will We will end up just kind of not having a yes that's worth a whole lot if we're not careful. And this quality really, really matters because we are training ourselves and we sometimes don't even realize it. You're training yourself. And then I would say specifically too, then that's for all areas of our life. What is my yes worth? But specifically when you get in a relationship, I want to you answer this question. Is it moving towards the eventual goal of marriage? When it comes to commitment, is this relationship moving towards the eventual goal of marriage? Is this going somewhere? This is a really simple question to ask if whether you should continue dating or you should part ways and break up. If you do not see yourself marrying that person, then you're saving you or that person from a lot of pain if you end things now. So, and it's okay. It's okay. Like, you know why some couples don't go to the gym, right? Because some couples just don't work out. Wow. We sing Jesus, Jesus, and then we're going to clap at the dad joke. Okay. Anyway, and so are we committed? Like, is this going somewhere? And also, this is just another add-on, just getting really specific. Hey, if after 4 weeks, there's nothing magical about the number 4 weeks, but I would say if after a month, y'all are still kind of talking and one of you's like, so like, where are we at? And then the person just says, oh, we're just hanging out. Stop it. Just stop it. High five and walk away. You're going to save yourself from a lot of pain, I promise you. I've seen this play out over and over and over and over again. So you want to know that there's actually something that's going somewhere whenever you get into a relationship. And with that, so it's a commitment, but it's also, this is a lifetime statement. So love is faithful. Like whenever you say, what is it? What's the filter we're looking at? This statement, I am my beloved beloved is mine. It's a lifetime statement. And this is a statement of faithfulness. That no matter where you're at, it's in the present. I am my beloved is mine. This is presently true no matter where you're at whenever you get married. You're committed till death do you part. Recently, I was working on this message, actually, and I was typing notes in my phone, and then I got the little pop-down message, and it just said she filed for divorce, and it was my friend letting me know that he's in a lot of pain. When I talked to him, he said he lost 15 pounds in 3 weeks, and he didn't know what he was going to do, and he wasn't doing well at all. And I could talk to you from my own life, seeing my parents divorce. It was not an easy divorce. It was not if there is such a thing, but it was a nasty divorce, if you want to call it that. And my life had a lot of repercussions in it because of that. And many people in the room, right? Somewhere around half. I think that stat kind of fluctuates a little bit, but somewhere around half. Man, I think anybody's going to tell you, yeah, that's not the story that you want. No one wants the heartache of divorce. You don't want your kids to go through the same heartache that you experienced. So that's why we're talking about this tonight, is because I believe that these things we're talking about can keep us from that and set us up for a very successful marriage that's amazing. But whenever it comes to my own marriage and when it comes to this verse, it's saying that you stay. Like, my wife has seen me on my worst days. My wife has seen me whenever I was having panic attacks and I couldn't drive a car. My wife has seen me on really, really tough days, and she stays, and she's beside me. And I've stayed with her. And we're committed, and that's what we're after. And I pray that God will give us 70 years. So because I'm not used to seeing that. I'm not used to seeing a committed relationship in marriages. That's not something I grew up with. But I believe God's doing that in our life, and it's a lifetime commitment. And so how does this apply to dating? How do you set yourself up when you're in the dating phase? Because again, that's the goal. That's the marriage part of it. But how in dating? Well, simple question. Does the person that you're dating or the person that you might be dating in the future, does this person highly value you? Do you highly value the one that you're dating? And does the one that you're dating highly value you? And then I would say, is this person also just, another question would be, is this person committed to Jesus? Listen, a person that's committed to Jesus will be faithful to you one day whenever you're married. I'll say that again. A person that's committed to Jesus will be faithful to you one day whenever you're married. I believe that's an absolute true statement. And then I would say also train yourself for faithfulness now by being pure. Sexually pure. So train yourself for faithfulness by being pure now. And I know that's where a lot of people in our culture are going to go, oh, okay, pump the brakes. This is whenever you're going to do the weird pastor thing, get on your high horse and try to tell us not to have pleasure because it's evil. No, that's not what I'm saying. And actually, again, this book is actually a celebration of sex within the context of marriage. That's what Song of Songs is about. And so that's not what I'm saying at all, but I am telling you this. There's a quote by Andy Stanley that a lot of people have used because it's very true. Purity paves the pathway to intimacy in your future marriage. Purity paves the pathway to intimacy. The place for sexual activity is whenever you're in lifetime covenant with someone. And that's a place of safety. That's a place of trust. That's an amazing place. And then at the other side of this verse, by the way, because I only said part of the verse, but it says that I am my beloved is mine. He grazes among the lilies. That's actually sexual language there. We don't use that language. Like that language is right up there with like hanky-panky. Like we don't use that language. If you use that language, stop it. But this woman, in a poetic way, this wife is inviting her husband to explore her sexually. And she's like, take your time, graze. You're like, oh, that's in the Bible. Can you say that, preacher? God said it. I didn't say it. That's what this is. And so this is an invitation within this context, but it is within the context of marriage. And so this word beloved is really, really interesting. It's the Hebrew word dode. And so I have the definitions for it behind me. But it's the Hebrew word dode, and it has a lot of sexual undertones to it. The root word of the word dode means to boil in a pot. What literally it means that we are supposed to be hot for one another when we're married. Like grazing among the lilies is recommended. Don't say that again. When you're married. And then the other way to define it is it's defined as an erotic lover. It's defined as the mingling of souls, which is just a beautiful phrase. The mingling of souls. This is why, by the way, sex is exclusive to marriage and the way God designed it, because it doesn't say the mingling of bodies. There's something much deeper happening at a soul level that's going on. And so we've got to know that there's the mingling of souls that is happening. And within the context of marriage, man, it's a beautiful thing. It's a thing that binds you to your husband or your wife. But when you start taking that outside of marriage, like part of my story, there's all kinds of problems that start to come up. So all kinds of issues that you face because of that. But it's the mingling of souls, and it's an amazing phrase here, what this word means. And then it means romantic kindred spirit, which I'll talk about here more in a minute. Train yourself for faithfulness and intimacy by being pure now. And can I just say this? Hey, what if some of us that have struggled in this area, what if we walk out tonight going, God, help me to not be another person's mistake. Help me to not have any more baggage in this area. What if God will bring us that moment? Because God has freed me of so much of the baggage that I carried, so much of the shame that I've carried. But man, God can do the same thing for you if that's where you're at now, but he can also save some of you from having to go where I've been. And so this is a lifetime statement of faithfulness, and that's the place for expressing sexual activity. And then this is a statement of ownership. That this is a statement of belonging, a statement of owning. It says, mine, my beloved is mine. Dating, guys, is not ownership. This is how this applies to dating. Dating is not ownership. Dating is an interview process. You want to define dating? Interview process. That's what dating is. You're trying to figure out, does this work? And sometimes it takes a few years. And I don't think that you should come with a set of 6, 7 questions and be like, this is just like my first interview, and then we'll see if you can take me out on a date. That'd be weird again. But know that that's what dating is. It's an interview process. It's a process of evaluation, trying to see if we are going to be a good match for the rest of our lives, to be married together. And so you are not obligated when you're dating. This is something that is so key for us to get. So I just want to challenge, and I'm not trying to get on a high horse here, but I want to challenge us to remove the mine kind of language from our dating relationships. And I did it all the time. I would say, oh, no, that's my girl. Here's the thing. When we weren't married, she wasn't my girl because the ring was not on the finger yet. And here's why I say that. And if you say that, I'm not saying like, that's my girlfriend. Well, I can't say mine because a stupid preacher told me I can't say mine. And like, I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying in your heart, when you start saying, oh, she's mine, or no, he's mine. When that's where you're at, here's what happens. When your heart goes where it should not go yet, hurt often follows. You can write that down, man. When your heart goes where it should not go yet, hurt often follows. Ownership is exclusive to marriage. And so how do you know if a person's going to be faithful in marriage while you're dating? Well, one question, an honest question would be, can the person say no to temptation now? If a person is committed to saying no to temptation now, there's a good chance that the person's going to say no one day when you're married to that person. And so can that person say no now? They'll probably be able to say no later because of self-control. They have self-control. And so it's a statement of ownership, of belonging. And then you are looking for someone to compliment you, not complete you, as we're wrapping our time up together. You are looking for someone to compliment you, not complete you. This is a complementary verse. There's a give and a take. I am my beloved is mine. There's a coming together to walk in this life side by side in partnership. That's what this verse is expressing. And so you are looking for someone that compliments you. And so the question that you got to answer right now is, do we compliment each other? And what does it mean to compliment each other? Compliment each other means that you are going together in the same direction. That's how you can define, do we compliment each other? Are we going together in the same direction? And dode, this word, I said I was going to bring it back up. It means romantic kindred spirit. Are we a kindred spirit? Like, are we going together in the same direction? I actually have a great picture of what I'm talking about when it comes to complimenting each other. We put that picture up? Hey. What God has joined together, let man not separate. I'm just saying, I saw that and I thought, that's what I want, Jesus. That's what I want. She can be Chick-fil-A, I'll be Whataburger. It's good. But that's what we're after. We're after this complement of each other. And to get really practical, there's a couple of relationships that I've seen that they decided they didn't complement each other. So like, there's a guy who he wanted to raise his kids Protestant and Catholic, actually, and she wanted to raise her kids only Catholic, and she said, I'm not going to raise our kids Protestant one day. And this was after they've been together for several years, actually, and they decided that they were going to break ties over that. And I thought that, that's okay. That's probably saving them from a lot of conflict in the future. There's a girl that she wanted to go overseas to be a missionary, and the guy, he was actually called to ministry, but he wanted to stay in the States. He felt very called to stay in the States. He's a youth pastor now. They decided that they needed to break ties because they were going in different directions. There was a girl that she was an atheist, and she came to me at the end of the service and said, hey, should we date? My boyfriend is a devout Christian, and I'm an atheist. Like, do you think that we should date? And I said, listen, like, the why behind y'all's lives is so different, because if he's really a Christian and follows Jesus, then he's going to be, the why for what he's doing with his life is always going to point back to God, and that's going to be so annoying for you. And I go, y'all are just on different paths. I don't think that's a great idea. And thankfully, she continued to come to the way, but they needed to break paths. And let me just go ahead and answer this question: should you date someone who's not a Christian? Should you date someone who's not a Christian? The answer is no, guys. Now, I know that there's evangelidating that happens, and every now and then you have a success story, but I'm telling you that most of the time it doesn't work out at all. And man, when it has worked out, praise God, celebrate it. I know that some of those relationships are even in this room. But I'm telling you that that's not the advice that I think you should even give somebody. You should not date somebody who is not a Christian. And Christian, I want to define that. That is someone who is on a pursuit of Jesus, not someone who's been in a church once. And so I had a conversation with somebody this last week. And there was this person was really excited about what God was doing in her life. And then things just started changing, and she started having several things that she mentioned that she was struggling with. And one of them was that she started dating a guy, and she said, man, I went to this guy and I was like, hey, will you go to church with me? He said, yes, I'm going to go to church with you. And he did. He came a couple of times here. I met him. And then she said that there were several things that started pulling her away, and she started falling into things that she wished she didn't fall into and having all kinds of struggles. And we didn't really see her a lot for a little bit. And God was still working on her, and there was a lot going on. But as she was talking about the struggles that she was having and the things that she was falling into, and typical struggles that college students have, I just stopped her. I just said, hey, can I just ask you, I knew I was about to preach this message, and I said, how much of that would you say is tied to the relationship that you were in that you probably shouldn't have been in? And she said, a lot of it. Man, I want y'all to hear this. Listen, you will usually not pull someone to your level of pursuit, but you will fall to their level of apathy. You will usually not pull someone to your level of pursuit whenever it comes to Jesus, but you will fall to their level of apathy. I've seen this play out dozens upon dozens of times. If you'll take this, I think it's going to really help some people tonight. And the difference, as we come to a close tonight, I want to say the difference between compliment and complete, because compliment is not complete. Fulfillment is the difference. Fulfillment comes from only Jesus. Like a spouse will never satisfy your soul. Every time I do a relationship series, I'm going to say that statement. Someone you date cannot satisfy your soul. Only Jesus can do that. And I just want to say, if you find yourself extremely clingy in relationships, it's possible, because I was doing this in my own relationship before Carrie and I got married. I did it in this relationship. I was looking for her to fulfill a place that only God can satisfy. But if you're extremely clingy, it's probably because you're looking for fulfillment where only God can fill that. That's where I've been. That's where so many people are. But I'm telling you that Jesus is the truest love that we're actually after. Like tonight, this is what our hearts are longing for, is the love of God. That's the only love that can actually satisfy the longings and the cravings and the deep desires that all of us have. You want to talk about someone that sacrifices? He gave his life for us. While we were still sinners, Christ died for me. He gave his life so he could save me, so he could save you. How crazy is that, man? Sacrificial love is the epitome of sacrificial love is Jesus. And the epitome of commitment is Jesus. He isn't going anywhere. He says, I'm never going to leave you. I'm never going to forsake you, ever. Ever. He's the only one in your life that can say, I will always be there, and actually it be true. He's committed, and he's faithful, man. When I have failed him over and over and over again in my life, I'm not up here because I get it right. I'm up here because I'm saved by grace. Whenever I am faithless, he is faithful, and he has not left my side. Even whenever I thought, God, you're done with me now, right? It's over, right? He stays. He's faithful. He does what no other person can do. He fulfills you. I want to end by showing you a picture. This is a picture of Pope Francis. Pope Francis is hugging and kissing this man on the head. This is from a few years ago when I saw this. And this man has a condition called neurofibromatosis. And this man was deemed untouchable by people that were all around him. Actually, on his way to see the Pope, he said that he was on a bus, and whenever he went to go sit down, the person that he tried to sit next to said, can you please not sit next to me? And so he moves, and he says, I wanted to say something, but I just said nothing, so I just stood in the back, away from everybody. And he says, I didn't expect to see this man, the Pope, and be close to him, rather, and he said that there's no really a reason why this Pope would stop for him, because he's an unclean man and the Pope didn't owe him anything. And the Pope stopped and he looked at him. He said he caught eyes with them. They said nothing, and the Pope brought him in and embraced him. And then he kissed him on the head. And listen, the Pope is just a man, but when I saw that picture, I thought about me and Jesus. And I thought about the sexual shame that I had from my past, the things that I've been through, the things that I've done. And I thought about the fact that Jesus says, I see it all. I see the scars. And I still love you. And I'll still change you. Listen, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, and no matter who you've been with, Jesus loves you, saves you, will change you, will make you new, will redeem you, and he'll change your life. He changed my life. And he'll change yours. He is the source of fulfillment and love that you're actually after. And that's true for every single one of us tonight. Let's pray. God, thank you. Thank you for the practical things that we went through tonight, but God, I pray that every person in this room experiences you, experiences your love. And if you're here and you need to talk, as we're about to go into a time of worship, there's going to be a prayer team at the back. They're going to have glow sticks around their necks, and they're ready to pray with you, talk with you. Also, if you go, I don't really want to talk with anybody, but man, I got some things that I just need to lay out. We have prayer cards in the back. It's a new thing that we're starting tonight. If you just want to write down some things so that way our team can pray for you, we will be committed to praying for you. If you want to write some prayer requests down at the back, or if you want to meet, you can sign up there as well. Whatever you're called to do in this moment, I know that we're all called to worship Him.